What does cannabis do to your sperm? Well, between the human data, the mechanistic data, and the differences between THC and CBD, it's complicated, but not good. I'm Lex Pelger. I cover cannabinoid science. Ask me anything. I'm sponsored by the Cannabis Health and Research Initiative, who will pay you $100 to talk about your use of our favorite plant. You can also sign up for our newsletter with all the best new cannabinoid science curated by me. Link in bio. Also, if you're interested, I can do a part 2 about the fertility effects on the uterus and the eggs. Also, one of the cancer types most frequently linked to cannabis use is testicular cancer. And when you look at the mechanism below, you'll see why that dovetails with what we're talking about. So the most commonly found effects of cannabis on sperm are lower sperm count, reduced sperm motility or swimming power, and worsened morphology or shape. Let's take a look at some of the human data. In these semen samples of tobacco and cannabis smokers, they had reductions in normal sperm morphology and non-progressive motility. And then in this study, they also had lowered DNA integrity, which you'll hear about more later. But conversely, in this public health data, the only link between cannabis use and infertility were slightly higher levels of FSH, which is a follicle-stimulating hormone, perhaps suggesting early signs of impaired testicular function. Then, in these men using cannabis and seeking infertility treatment, they had a higher risk of low testosterone levels and altered sperm morphology. Finally, in this 10-year study of the sperm of men in a Midwestern city, cannabis use, along with tobacco and alcohol use, were associated with lower sperm concentrations and lower sperm motility. If you want to read some of the best reviews on the subject, this first one is on the endocannabinoids and male fertility and the debate on harm versus help. This one focuses on the decreased sperm motility, the DNA integrity, and the problems with capacitation, which is the changes when the sperm enters the female reproductive tract and powers up for the last leg of the journey. This one also looks at negatives of THC for spermatogenesis and the changes to hormonal balance, as well as the positives of endocannabinoids facilitating erectile function. And finally, I don't usually like cheeky little puns in the titles of my papers, but this one at least isn't playing off the stoner aspects of cannabis, just the word itself. And it is a good one on the complicated murky web of sperm, cannabinoids, protein folding, and the chaperone molecules in the male fertility process. So, the mechanisms. Yes, you have CB1 and CB2 cannabinoid receptors across the entire testicular region, as well as in the sperm themselves. So it makes sense that activating those receptors are going to change things. But things aren't always clear. For instance, when you activate the CB2 receptor, that seems to promote the proliferation and differentiation of sperm stem cells. Then, in mice with no CB1 receptors, their testicles don't develop as well, and they have impaired spermatogenesis. So, you do need your endocannabinoid system for good sperm development, but overactivating it does seem to lead to fertility problems.